The Haram love, the story of an unacceptable or forbidden love affair resulting from racist motives between the Sudanese Arab girl and a black African boy from South Sudan. It was written in English and translated to Arabic by Dr. A. Ahmed. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored or tribal system or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer who may extract brief passages for the review for printing in a general magazine, a school journal, or university article. All characters in this novel are fictitious, and any resemblance to real people, live or dead, is purely coincidental. Chapter 1. An illegitimate child. On Friday morning, in the Al Maidan neighborhood of the city of Gadarif, in the eastern region of Sudan, something important happened. It was considered an unusual event because it had never happened before in that city. The night before was special as the son of a rich and noble man had married the daughter of a poor and good man. 15 cows, 3 camels, 10 calves, 25 sheep, and countless chickens and pigeons were slaughtered to feed a large number of guests. 5 famous singers from the Sudanese capital Khartoum were brought to sing at this wonderful wedding celebration, namely Muhammad Wardi, Dedan Ibrahim, Said Khalifa, Acha al-Fallatia, and Muhammad al-Amin. The celebration was held on a spacious football field. Half of the city's population was invited to the wedding. Everyone is very happy with the rich man's generosity. Food was so plentiful that the poor were encouraged to take some leftovers home. Soft drinks were brought from Khartoum. People who have never tasted famous soft drinks like Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola, and Fanta are lucky enough to taste some of them that day. The wedding has become a day of remembrance because the calendar in the city of Gadarif is an event and not a date. Just as the birth of the Lord Jesus Christ divided history before his birth and after his birth, so is the case in the city of Gadarif. This event can be something great that the entire city can remember for many years to come. It could be any disaster, such as a fire, flood, or the death of the Muslim imam of a grand mosque or a famous political leader. When that day happened, people use it to refer to many events. For example, a mother might use the day to show that her daughter is the youngest of the girls because she was born after the event. A mother who insisted that her daughter was born shortly after the event, even though the daughter herself remembers the event, will be considered a big fat liar. If an event is known only to a small area, the residents of that neighborhood use it as a history. This practice has proven useful many times because most of the people of Gadarif are illiterate. Everyone in the Al Maidan neighborhood attended the wedding except for Insaf, the daughter of Haj Saleh, because her father imprisoned her in his house. We should not go into that now because it is a long story and its details may spoil the beautiful wedding occasion. All women, all men, the blind or a cripple or a boss were led or carried to the wedding. Some women have already marked this day in their mental calendars as a historical day. Besides being a unique day because of the grand ceremony and the unimaginable union between the rich and the poor, there is another event that makes this day very special. This relates to the gifts that the rich man gave to the poor family of his son's bride. It is believed that the dresses presented to the bride were imported especially from England, America, India, and China. In addition, money, gold, and diamonds were presented to the bride. None of these expensive pieces of jewelry are anything new. Many of the city's rich grooms have included such rather expensive gifts in their marriages. Once the boys and girls unloaded the gifts from the three brand new cars, the neighbors were amazed to learn that the three new vehicles were also part of the gifts given to the bride's poor family. This recent generosity set a record in the city of Gadarif and made today a historical and unforgettable day. The happy wedding celebration ended at 4 o'clock in the morning, and people did not sleep until the first rays of the sun were seen rising on Mount Abu Awara. The morning was just beginning, but no one saw it. Since it is a Friday morning, people think it can add to the fun of the previous night's party. Parents do not need to attend work hours, and children do not need to go to school. Only public Friday prayers, which will be held at noon, are obligatory today. The people of the Al Medan locality laid their tired bodies on their beds and slept like cavemen. The barking of dogs, the crowing of roosters, and the loud voice of the muezzin from the high minaret of the mosque calling the worshippers to the morning prayer did not wake people from their deep slumber. It is a summer morning. It was 7 o'clock sharp when the stillness of that morning and the peaceful sleep of the people was suddenly disturbed by a loud woman's scream. Her screams resembled the shout of the Archangel Israfil at the last day of resurrection, who forced every sleeping person to wake up from their heavy slumber. However, none of them opened their eyes or moved any part of their bodies until the woman repeated her screams 100 times and more. The woman continued to scream, and the sleepy people were forced to wake up from their deep sleep, which was like the sleep of the people in the cave. People have been trying to find out what kind of help she needs. A disobedient wife is beaten by her husband. A lustrous girl gets hammered by her father. A young virgin woman was raped by a stranger. When those odds were no match for the screaming, people were forced to lift their tired bodies, yet none of them moved their feet. Any unusual explanation would have saved them the trouble of getting up early to rescue the woman. Even if her voice is stopped in a murder, it could be a good excuse for everyone to justify their unnecessary involvement in an horrid killing. But the woman's screaming voice continued like a fire alarm that would not go off unless someone turned it off. The boys, who always love adventures and look for trouble, responded it first, not because young men are always helpful, but because they look for incidents like this so their beloved girlfriends can be released from their home confinement. Fire, robbery, murder, or the sudden death of a neighbor is a good opportunity for lovers to meet each other without being noticed by their strict families. As a result, many doors opened and the boys left their homes and headed toward the place from which the woman's voice was still screaming. Behind them came the elderly. These old men are fully armed and equipped with white-bladed indigenous weapons such as swords, axes, spears, sticks, and whips, in anticipation of any potentially fatal encounter with the offender. Next to them come married women with their children and dogs. The last people in line behind them were the teenage girls. This time, not only was the girl in South left in home detention, but also blind, lame, deaf, and mute. The screaming woman was not found in the house as was supposed. She was found inside the creek, kneeling, spreading dust on her head. It is a seasonal stream that is full in the fall, so it dries up because it is the summer season. Large crowds of people gather on both banks of the creek. Then people tried to find out why the woman was terrified, but they couldn't. Some have reached the hasty conclusion that the woman is probably crazy. If that were the case, people might have cursed her, cursed the day she was born, and then returned it home and resumed their sleep. This conclusion was called into question when the woman pointed it to a small piece of rusty metal lying in front of her. But this does not explain the mystery. A brave adventurer is needed to go down to the creek and see this unknown piece of horror. That small body of metal has become like Goliath for the residents of the Harat al-Maidan and Haya al-Sawra areas. No one in the crowd was brave enough to face this giant hiding behind the rusty metal. To solve the mystery, some tried to communicate with the woman. Their short conversation did not help because the woman was a Falatiya and did not know the Arabic language. Her family is originally from Nigeria, so she cannot speak Arabic, nor can anyone speak her difficult, accented African language. When it became clear that nothing could solve the mystery, a man was seen slowly, cautiously, and fearfully entering the seasonal creek that was known as Khor Abu Farqa. There was an eerie silence for a few minutes. Even the terrified Nigerian woman had either lost her voice by then or was afraid of the bald man. Even though she was silent, her right hand still pointed it at the little piece of horror. The bald man walked with his big stick toward the small unknown body of fear. His steps have been counted by onlookers for centuries. His long beard and light mustache distinguished him in front of everyone. Although he is considered the most righteous man in the region, no one accepts him as the most righteous and pious person. Although he is considered the most religious man in the region, no one accepts him as the most righteous and pious person. The people of the neighborhood respect him not out of reverence but out of fear. Women used to mention his name to frighten their children when they became naughty and stubborn. He carries a large stick as if it were a double-edged sword. With this long staff, he could divide the Red Sea and kill the fair-breathing dragon if they tried to block his way. Haj Salah al-Junaid, whom people call Abu Shanab because of his light mustache, was the one who took this great risk and went down into the creek to confront these terrifying tiny things. He is the father of the girl in South who has been grounded inside her house for more than 6 months. When he reached the frightened Nigerian woman and saw what was under the small piece of rusty metal, he dropped his light stick and fell to his knees. Then he placed his right hand on his head and his left hand on his heart and pronounced the Islamic Shahada. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of God. Abu Shanab repeated it, the Islamic creed, 3 times before revealing to people the reason for his astonishment. Walad Haram, or an illegitimate child. The man with the longest mustache in the world shouted loudly. If Haj Salah had announced the death sentence for everyone standing there, people would not have been affected emotionally, ontologically, and morally to such a great extent. Some of them tried to chant the Islamic creed of martyrdom, but their voices failed them. Some started sweating and muttering garbled words. Some lost their senses and their lips were paralyzed. For a while, no one could say anything until another brave old sheikh was here cursing Satan loudly, seeking refuge in God from the accursed devil. Then the second bold old man went down into the creek and confirmed the scandal. Immediately, the teenage girls were kicked out by their fathers and brothers. There are no parents who would like their unmarried daughters to see such a child born of ill will and be tainted by scandal. Married women and underage girls have also been forced to retreat by their husbands and fathers. Only the bravest hearts among men stood their ground and watched the dead infant. As for the other men, they stood far away and continued to repeat the Islamic Shahada and curse Satan until the police came at 12:30 in the afternoon and removed the dead baby. People surrounded him, but none of them dared to touch him. When the murdered infant was taken away in an ambulance, people dispersed. On that day, no one went to the mosque to perform the public Friday prayer. The men gathered in groups and discussed the scandal. Women started it, coming forward with many stories and accusing many innocent girls. By evening, the number of accused girls gradually decreased until it was limited to one girl. Many arguments and evidence have been presented by talkative, noisy women and gossip mongers to support this theory. First hypothesis: who didn't attend the wedding last night? Daughter of Haj Salah al-Junaid. Hypothesis 2: who had not been seen for 6 months? Abu Shanab's daughter. Hypothesis 3: who is in love with an African boy? Insaf Salah al-Junaid. Conclusion: therefore, Insaf, the daughter of Haj Salah al-Junaid, is the mother of the murdered Walad Haram, or an illegitimate child. This is how women interpreted the scandal of the murdered illegitimate infant and came to a hasty conclusion. Once the sun of that fateful Friday was seen setting below the horizon, it was unanimously agreed that the imprisoned teenage girl Insaf, the daughter of Haj Salah al-Junaid, and Haj Amina, was the girl who gave birth to Walad Haram, or an illegitimate child, and this event became an unforgettable and historical day. Chapter 2: The Arab Girl and Her Abominable Love. Although the people of the Al-Maidan neighborhood believed that Haj Salah's daughter had given birth to an illegitimate child and that her mother had committed infanticide, or the unlawful murder of an infant, no one dared confront them about their heinous actions. The next day, the police force came to Al-Maidan neighborhood and investigated the matter. People are afraid to report the accused girl to the police for fear of being unnecessarily involved in the crime. Somehow the police hear a rumor about Abu Shanab's daughter being illegitimately pregnant with Walad Haram. Since the sources are unreliable, the police authority did not take this rumor seriously. Regardless of what people said and believed, let us get to the facts and investigate the terrible crime. Insaf is the only daughter born to Haj Salah and Haj Amina. She is a very beautiful teenage girl. In addition, she is the most intelligent student in the school. But as the people of Gadarif say, if the wood does not have a slot, it will not make a sound. In fact, Insaf loved someone before her father locked her inside his house. Love began when the two met while returning from school one day. Several girls saw Insaf talking to the boy and reported it to their school principal first. The school administration questioned her about the love affair, but she strongly denied it. However, the girlfriend continued to meet and talk to her lover. They would meet every day and whisper their feelings to each other. Insaf knew that her love relationship with the boy would not end in marriage because she was an Arab girl and the boy was African. Therefore, from day one, Insaf knew and understood that she had fallen in love with an unmarriageable lover. However, she decided to continue their relationship until her parents found a suitable Arab young man and married her to him. This may seem unbelievable, but Insaf knew that her Arab father might marry her off to a dog or a pig, but not to an African Negro boy. But the gossip that reached Insaf's neighbors went beyond just meeting and talking. Some girls swear by the blindness of their eyes that they had seen the African boy carrying Insaf many times in his beautiful car, heading towards the wilderness and having sex in the open as beasts do. Some of her girlfriends swear to God that she often left her lessons and went with the African boy to an unknown destination. The rumors continued for a long time before they finally reached her parents. The woman who broke the sad news was neither a relative nor a friend of the family. This led to a quarrel between the woman and Insaf's mother. The woman asked Hajj Amina to discipline her bad daughter first before blaming other innocent girls. When Hajj Amina challenged the woman and claimed that her daughter was the most moral and well-behaved girl in school and the neighborhood. The woman revealed the love relationship between Insaf and the black-faced African Negro boy. The mother immediately reported the matter to her husband, and the following corrections were applied to Insaf. Firstly, she was prevented from going to school by her angry father. The father swore by God and by divorcing his wife that his daughter would never go to school again. Secondly, Insaf's hair was completely shaved off and she became a bald girl. Thirdly, she was prohibited from having any social contact, which is why she was imprisoned for 6 months inside the house. Fourth, Insaf was recircumcised even though her genitals were mutilated when she was 4 years old. This second female genital mutilation was done because the mother and father believed that the midwife or circumciser who circumcised her might not have done a good job when she mutilated her genitals when she was a 4-year-old girl. Islamic female circumcisions includes removing the entire clitoris, cutting off large parts of the labia majora and labia minora, suturing the girl's pussy from top to bottom, and leaving a small hole that allows the Muslim girl to urinate. The World Health Organization says that female genital mutilation, or FGM, is the removal of the seal of the labia majora and labia minora together after removing the entire clitoris. Fifth, an important test was conducted on Insaf to find out whether the discrediting information that says the Arab daughter committed a crime of adultery with the African Negro boy was true or not. The test is not a pregnancy test because that in itself would be a scandal. It's a virginity test. Her mother and other trusted elderly women who were close friends and neighbors secretly conducted the test, which is a local test in which the girl is stripped naked and asked to immerse her body in a basin filled with water. She is then asked to stop any movement and hold her breath. The woman then performed the virginity test. They checked the surface of the water to see if there were any bubbles. And when the women were completely satisfied that there was not a single bubble on the surface, the girl passed the test. This stupid Muslim woman believed that the pussy in which the hymen had been penetrated by inserting the penis into it even once, it will absorb some water and create bubbles. When Insaf's mother was satisfied with the repeated results of the virginity test, she moved to the second step. This is a step that has to do with the heart afflicted with love. Parents believe that love before marriage is a very serious disease and requires a long time to recover from it. The only cure known to them is complete separation from the African boy she loves. In addition, the daughter should be married off to another Arab man as soon as possible. The Arab person chosen to replace the African Negro lover is Insaf's cousin. This cousin had been pursuing her for a long time, but she rejected his love. His cousin Insaf hated him and told him frankly that she would rather die than marry him. However, after her forbidden love affair with the African boy, her father approached her cousin and encouraged him to come and ask for Insaf's hand in marriage. The cousin's family came and asked for her hand in marriage to their son. The father agreed to their request, and thus Insaf and her cousins were officially engaged, and their wedding date was set. For these reasons, Insaf lived under house arrest until the historical day came when an illegitimate child was born and killed, and Haj Salah's imprisoned daughter became the scapegoat. Chapter 3: Wedding of an old man and a teenage girl. The second rumor passed from one mouth to another until it finally reached the ears of Insaf's prospective mother-in-law. This woman is not happy with the engagement of her son with Insaf and considers it a way to get rid of the fallen girl. She objected it and tried to spoil the engagement. She had an old enmity with Insaf's mother. Most likely, she was jealous of the beauty of Hajj Amina and her noble family. Therefore, when the rumor of Haram, or an illegitimate child, reached her ears, not only did she believe it, but she added it reasons to support it. Blessing herself under a curse of blindness of her eyes and deafness of her ears, she swore to God that whenever she visited her Salah's house, she would find Insaf wearing loose clothes and always vomiting while pregnant with a forbidden Walad Haram baby in her stomach. Such evidence not only made the rumor spread widely, but also made her husband and son believe it. The father immediately sent his son to his brother Haj Salah and asked him to break off the engagement. But the father strongly wanted his son not to reveal the reason. It is up to his brother Haj Salah to discover the conspiracy of his wife and daughter. The sudden cancellation of the soon-to-be married engagement weighed heavily on Isaf's parents. The last hope they had to protect their honor among the people was gone. Not only that, but cancelling the engagement without giving acceptable reasons would also make neighbors and relatives wonder why the cousin does not agree to marry the daughter of his uncle. The inescapable conclusion would be that he learned of the secret love the Arab girl had with the southern black African Negro, and most likely found the love affair to be anything but not innocent. He may have discovered that Insaf was not a virgin and had given birth to an illegitimate child. Before the cancellation of the engagement destroyed everything and brought disaster to the family, the desperate father had offered his daughter to marry any Arab man, regardless of his age. He said that even if he was married and had more than one wife, he would give him his daughter. But no Arab boy or a married man came to ask for Insaf's hand in marriage. It seems that the scandal of her falling in love with an African Negro boy, committing adultery with him, giving birth to an illegitimate child, and killing him is too big for any Sudanese Arab man to accept. However, as Insaf's parents grapple with these fears, a glimmer of hope emerges. It is the engagement of the socially rejected girl Insaf proposed by Hattaha. He is an old geezer, and his youngest daughter is married and has 4 children. He has 3 wives, and his 4th wife recently died. Islamic law allows him to add another woman to his harem if he so desires. He is a very rich Arab man. He hears all the rumors about Insaf and believes them completely. However, the pleasure of having a beautiful teenage girl like Insaf to fuck in his bed every night made him compromise his moral principles. He expected that Haj Salah would gladly accept the engagement to get rid of his bad daughter, who was exposed to the scandal of adultery, pregnancy, and delivering Walad Haram, and then killing him. His predictions proved correct, and Insaf was officially declared his fiancée. Before the ugly rumor and his 3 Muslim wives spoiled the engagement, Haj Salah and Haj Taha performed the marriage contract in the mosque. The Islamic halal marriage was conducted by the Imam of the mosque with 2 Muslim adult witnesses, along with the groom Haj Taha and the bride's father, who is her official guardian. Then the father-in-law agreed not to hold a celebration because his daughter's groom is a married man with 3 Muslim wives and many sons and daughters and grandchildren as well. Therefore, the new groom was invited to come to his bride's house at any time at night and consummate his marriage with her. After that, he can take her home and she will be his 4th Muslim wife. According to marriage custom, unless the groom sleeps with his bride in her parents' house, he cannot take her to his residence. He must have sex with her as a virgin in her family's house and break her hymen. That evening, the new groom, Haj Taha, left the mosque and went to his home. Before leaving, he promised his 4th wife's father that he would come late at night to sleep with new bride. For Haj Taha, it is not a big deal to spend a night with a young woman as a halal Muslim wife. He has many of them, some of whom travel to the world of the dead due to their old age, and he divorced many of them to replace them with others. But on this wedding day, he had a different feeling. He not only feels that he has a new wife, but a young and beautiful bride with big buttocks and breasts like spears. He thinks he fell in love with her before he slept with her. She will rejuvenate his old age and make him feel like a young, horny man again. He does not worry that she is not a virgin. This would make things easier for him and save him from the trouble of fighting with the girl over her virginity. She would be blessed to be honored and protected by his wealth and noble name. Who dares to point the finger at her when she comes to his house? She was no longer called himself the fallen girl, but rather the virtuous wife of Hattaha. The pilgrim swore to God that the tongue of every man or a woman who spoke a bad word against his new bride would be cut out by his knife. The old man's memory went back to a few years ago when he saw himself for the first time. She came to play with his grandchildren. She was just a child of 9 or so years old. He remembered seeing her small breasts like a pair of tiny lemons. She was naughty and played like a boy. She climbed his big neem tree like a female monkey. He also remembered when he saw her again while returning home from her school. He had to ask his friend Haj Rodwan who she was. By then, she had grown into a beautiful teenage girl. She was ripe like an apple and was ready to marry and have sex in bed. When she reached them, she smiled and said in a musical voice of a teenage girl, "How are you, my grandpa, Hattaha?" He pretended he didn't know her. "Who are you, my daughter?" inquired the old man. "How did you forget me so quickly?" she replied. "I'm Insaf, daughter of Hajj Salah, my daughter. Girls are like trees. They grow so fast. I was playing in your big neem tree with your grandchildren." Then the old grandfather remembered her soft hand when she shook his. He held her hand for a long time and did not release her until she asked him to let her go. As she walked away, he stood and looked at her until she disappeared. He still remembered her sexy figure when she was walking away. She's in her school uniform. Her hair is dark, long like a mare's tail, and falls below her shoulders and reaches her buttocks. Her waist is narrow, evenly divided between her high spear-like breast and her light buttocks. Then the old geezer remembered the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, may God bless him and grant him peace, in which he said, "God bless a hairy man and a woman with a cubit-shaped ass," meaning she has large buttocks. Her fair legs are full and straight. They shine like gold under her skirt. Her head bowed slightly towards her left shoulder. Her eyes are large and narrow at the corners, and she has two black crescent-like eyebrows, like the eyeballs of an Indian girl. It was a sunny afternoon when Hattaha made this second exciting discovery about Hajj Salah's daughter. The hot sun caused her forehead to sweat. She held a book in front of her to protect her skin from the heat of the day. Her skin is yellow like a mango. Her neck was like a bottle of ghee. Her lips were like pineapples, and her cheeks were like apples. A beautiful smile always adorns her lips. She laughed more than she talked to him. She even teased him about his poor memory. How do you expect me to marry one of your grandchildren if you do not know who I am? Insaf says while laughing, my daughter, marriage is a kismet and a destiny. It is written in heaven and decreed by God Almighty. Then Taha's memory of the past stopped and he began to think about the present. What would have happened if a noble, white Arab girl like his new bride, Insaf, had married that cold, black African Negro boy? How did she fall in love with him? How did she allow him to rape her and make her pregnant with an illegitimate child? Before he reached his conclusion, he remembered the murdered illegitimate child. He is the second man his eyes fall on. The forbidden child, or what the Haram, had hair, had fair skin and straight hair. Such a recollection caused a slight doubt to appear in his mind. How can a boy with a hair like a raisin give birth to a baby with hair like a ponytail? Maybe in the end, the father of the ill-gotten child will be an Arab boy. Taha accepts any possibility except that the mother of the illegitimate child is not Insaf. His fanatical and narrow religious mentality will not conflict with the group's decision. A thick cloud of sadness filled his chest, so he took a deep breath and said, it is true that beauty is enchanted and under a curse. The old geezer performed his last prayer at 12:30 midnight. He completely concealed the news of his marriage to a new fourth Muslim wife from his 3 wives, children, and grandchildren. Fair is visiting her family's house. He should have sex with her and taste her honey and makes her taste his honey, then decides to announce the matter after spending his Fair's wedding night with his new bride. He was determined to threaten any of his other Muslim wives with a divorce bullet and expel her from his house if she raised any objection or accusation against his beautiful young wife. He then wore his new clothes, meaning that the last time he wore them was 10 years ago when he returned from his 5th visit to Mecca and Medina while performing the Hajj rituals at the forbidden house of Allah. He stood in front of the mirror and looked at his image on the other side. Before he put his large turban over his square, bald head, he looked like a pig. When he put it on his head, he looked like an old red acacia tree monkey. He thanked God for allowing him to marry at his old age. Al-Hajj thought it was funny that God had allowed an old hag woman of his age to marry a young boy the same age as his first wife Insaf. The old geezer thanked God loudly for his limitless and unfathomable wisdom in allowing the old man to marry an underage girl like the Prophet Muhammad married the child bride Aisha when she was 6 and fucking her in bed when she became 9 years old, and also allowed him to marry 4 wives at the same time. Hatta guessed that by this time his father-in-law Haj Salah had already left his house. No one spends the first night at home when his daughter gets married. It is a custom and everyone follows it. When the old groom left his house that night, there was no one in the streets. Even stray dogs and homeless people are asleep. He carried his big stick and walked slowly toward his bride's house. It took him half an hour to crawl from his house to the house of his new bride. Gently and carefully, he knocked on the outer door with his finger. His new mother-in-law, Haj Amina, opened the door for him. She greeted him with a sad face. She seems unhappy with the marriage, but circumstances forced her to accept God's kismet to her only child. Her daughter is 17 years old and her groom is 77 years old. She told him that her husband had gone to spend the night with some of his distant relatives. The groom had Taha entered the house. Then his mother-in-law showed him the room where her teenage daughter slept. She gave him the key and went back to her room. As soon as the mother disappeared into her room, Taha opened the door and entered to complete his marriage to his teenage bride Insaf. Chapter 4. The African Sudanese Jangu and the beautiful Arab girl. An hour has passed since the train left the city of Gadarif and proceeded east. Most of the passengers are asleep. Many of them do not know that the train passed through the second largest city in eastern region of Sudan. It was 12:30 a.m. when the train arrived in the city. At 2:45 a.m., the last row of city huts was buried in the smoke and dust of the train. Darkness engulfed the long train. It runs along the railway tracks like a giant snake known as the bull serpent. For several hours, the train continued its long journey east. It passes through many small villages and stopped in a few towns. Neither train's loud whistle nor the screams of food and tea vendors disturbed the passengers. They sleep like cave people as if they were hibernating in the heat of summer and the darkness of the night. The train is so crowded with passengers that many of them are stuffed like sardines in cans. Passengers are crammed painfully onto the waiting benches like grain sacks in trucks. New passengers were forced to sleep on the aisles. Some adventurers took the risk and climbed to the top of the train. As the morning sun shone through the cabins, the passengers looked like ancient sedimentary rocks. Their hair and clothes are covered in dust and dirt. Although the hot summer sun burned their skin, they remained dormant. Some of them woke up, but they were unable to move their numb limbs due to fatigue and exhaustion. They would have remained in that comatose state of silence forever if the police had not started it, banging on their heads. The police are checking tickets. During the 4-day journey from Khartoum city to Port Sudan city, inspections take place after each main stop. Due to the innumerable number of passengers, screening is carried out randomly. The inspection was supposed to take place immediately after the train left the city of Gadarif, but for unknown reason, the check-in was delayed until the train passed through the Kassala city. The passengers, with much pain and effort, moved their bodies and sat down. In each room, anyone found without a ticket was fined 10 times the normal price. But some passengers who were found without tickets were exempted due to their miserable conditions. Those who are found to be not poor or do not have enough money to pay the fine will be arrested and detained in the train's confinement room. At the next stop, they will be handed over to the police authority for further action, which depends on the policy of that security center. They will either release them or send them to prison, but in no uncertain terms. They will not be allowed to board the same train again. When the check was over, 15 unlucky passengers were found without tickets and money. They were taken by the police to the lockup room. Police officer Khalid Muhammad Yahya believes that his long experience qualifies him to judge by looking at the face to determine whether the passenger is innocent or guilty. His eyes surveyed the 15 passengers before he began questioning them. Why didn't you pay for your ticket? Officer Khalid asked harshly. A young man replied, some bad guys stole the money I had. Stand there. What about you, woman? A young woman said, I was asleep, and when I woke up, I discovered that all my luggage and wallet had been stolen with my ticket and cash. Officer Khalid said seriously, listen to me, all of you. If any of you had his money stolen, let him stand there. Of the 15 passengers, only one girl remained standing in front of Officer Khalid. And what about you, young lady? Why did you lose your ticket or your money? I don't have a ticket or money, the teenage girl replied. Didn't you know that it is illegal to travel by train without a ticket? Yes, I knew that, but I don't have the money to buy a ticket. Before he could inquire further, police officer Khalid raised his head and looked at the teenage girl. For a few minutes, he fixed his gaze on her face. It seemed to him that the girl has turned it into a mysterious creature. The teenager had the face of a young girl, but the hair of a boy. He had never seen such a mix of genders before in Sudan. However, this rare combination of genders not only attracted him, but also made her look like the most beautiful girl he had ever seen in his life. For a long time, Officer Khalid looked at her wonderful beauty. He was lost in an overwhelming, heavenly ecstasy of admiration and perhaps remained in that divine presence forever. It was not only the girl's unparalleled beauty or a feminine appeal, but her personality that attracted her to his being. She has a bold, feminine appearance, intelligent eyes, and stunning beauty that enchants the eyes of onlookers and attract them towards her. Her lips were like two pieces of pineapple stuck together and pulled out slightly. Her nose is straight and beautifully curved like Queen Cleopatra. She has a dimple on her chin, a mole on her left cheek. Her cheeks, shining like pure gold, were stretched out by pulling her lips forward. Above her eyes are two crescent-like eyebrows. Her eyes are half closed and reveal long agony. She looks serious, tired, and in pain. It is not just a physical pain. It is a result of long days of abuse, torture, and harm. I'm not a lying girl, sir, the teenage beauty said, crying. I knew it since I saw your face, that you are not a criminal girl either. The police officer added, your face reveals you are from a noble Arab family. The girl remained silent. Since you are neither poor nor a fraud, how did you get on the train without a ticket? The girl did not answer his question. Officer Khalid felt that if he inquired further about the girl's strange life, she might burst into tears. He saw that her eyes were closed as if she was about to faint. and a few drops of tears were streaming down her rosy cheeks. Her lips were bullied back, pushing her cheeks out. The police officer was not only determined to help her, but he decided to introduce himself to her and offer current and future assistance if she needed it. Then the handsome policeman said, "I'm Officer Khalid Muhammad Yahya." Then he added, "Can you please, miss, sit on this chair?" The girl sat in a comfortable chair, lowered her head, and began to look down. "Where are you from and where do you live?" "I'm from Kassala City." "What is your final destination?" "Port Sudan City." "What is your name?" "In Ihsan." "What is your full name?" "Ihsan Salah al-Junaid." "How old are you?" 17 years. "Well, Ihsan, as I told you, I have no reason to doubt your sincerity. You are the first person I have ever met on this train who told the truth. Everyone standing there is a liar. Every one of them lied to me because they wanted it to escape the punishment of the law. For this reason, they will all have to be kicked off the train at the next station. None of them will be allowed on this train again." When the police officer came to such a conclusion about the other 14 passengers, he seriously looked at their faces and examined them carefully like an experienced police officer. None of them met his standard of a noble Arab family. He considered them all just Jangu. This word Jangu is a racist name used by the Sudanese Arab tribes called the Jalaba to refer to some Sudanese African Negro tribes who are considered backward and merely worthless slaves. The Arabs are known as Jalaba because these people have African features, but they claim to be Arabs and wear robes like the Arabs of Arabian Venezuela and the rest of the Arab world. It is a light, loose-fitting white garment that resembles women's nightgowns. The Sudanese Arabs consider the Sudanese Jangu to be black slaves who have the right to kill them without cause, rob them of their property, enslave their women, and rape them without feeling guilty. Therefore, the Sudanese Arab police officer Khalid Yahya believed that if they were all blessed like the Negro Django on one side of the scale and the Arab beauty Ihsan on the other, she would surpass them all as if she were made of gold, and the so-called 14 Django are creatures made by the Creator from clay and dirt. Some Sudanese Arab women believe that God created the Django woman after he created the flies. Officer Khalid said to one of his police officers, "Policeman Said Ahmed, take these 14 Django people to the detention room. They should all be kicked off the train of the next station. Make sure you hand them over to the police at the next station and don't let any of them get on this train again." The policeman Said Ahmed followed orders and escorted the so-called niggers, scammers, and cheaters out of the police office room. Now the beautiful Arab girl is left alone with the Arab police officer. He looked at her and said politely, "Now tell me, Miss Ihsan, how can I help you?" The beautiful girl looked sadly at the officer first and then bowed her head again. "This is a train ticket in your name, Ihsan Salah al-Junaid. You can resume your trip to Port Sudan City. This is my card, which has my home address and phone number in the city you are traveling to. I'm a married Arab Muslim man who fears God. I believe in helping decent people who are facing problems. You can visit my house and meet my wife and mother. I know that you are a good girl with good morals, the daughter of good Arab parents, and from an honorable tribe. If you need any assistance, please feel free to contact me by phone, write, or visit my home. I live in the transit area of Bursudan City. Once she received the ticket and ID card, the beautiful Arab girl Ihsan smiled and looked shyly, her beautiful eyes full of admiration at the handsome Arab policeman Khalid Yahya. Officer Khalid says proudly, "You are a free girl now, and if you need any help during your journey, you can come to me here. I spend most of my time in this office on the train. I'm exactly as the singer Abu Arak al-Bakhit said, like Uncle Azain, stuck in this train of worry. I travel one day to the east and the other day to the west, months and years." The poetic verses that he sang to her with his mouth made her laugh and look at him through the eyelashes of her beautiful eyes. Ihsan wanted it to thank the kind police officer, Khalid Yahya, but she felt too ashamed to do so. She looked at him with eyes full of affection and admiration, then turned her face and left his office. Despite the disappearance of her sexy body and beautiful face, her presence as an angelic female who descended from the zodiac sky continued to fill the vision and being of the Arab officer Khalid, who claimed that his great-grandfather was Al-Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad. He put his left hand on his chain and held the pen with his right hand. He began to think about the problem of the beautiful Arab girl who appeared to him like the beauty of a new crescent or one of the virgins of paradise. He tried not to make up any hasty story about her. Now many questions are running through his mind. She had no money and probably wouldn't have accepted it some if it had been offered to her. How could her Arab parents bear such a risk and allow her to travel alone from Kassala to Port Sudan? Is she in trouble with her family? How will she survive without food for another day on the train? How can she get from the public station to her final destination in Port Sudan City? Is she a married girl or a virgin? These questions and many others bothered the Arab officer Khalid Muhammad Yahya long after the noble Arab beauty Ihsan Salah al-Junaid left his office room on the train. Her beautiful image did not disappear from his memory until the train of worry reached Medina Port Sudan in the farthest region in eastern Sudan at the Red Sea. Chapter 5. The pure Arab girl and her unacceptable African Negro boyfriend. Deng is an African Zungi boy because of his forbidden love. The Arab girl in South suffered a lot of injustice and abuse from her family, relatives, neighbors, classmates, the school headmistress, and other female teachers. He's a young teenage boy. His Muslim father is originally from South Sudan and from the Denka tribe. His Christian mother is an Abyssinian from Ethiopia. His parents' union resulted from a love affair. They fought many battles with their families before they got married. They faced opposition from both sides due to their religious differences. Deng's father is a Sudanese African Muslim man from the city of Juba, while his mother is a Catholic Christian woman from Addis Ababa city. For this reason, they faced a lot of resistance. However, their love proved stronger than any religious barrier. The fruit of this marriage union is Deng. They have no other children and do not plan to have another child in the future. Their married life went smoothly until Deng reached the age of 6. When the parents realized that their son could not belong to both religions, they began to attract him to both sides. The Christian mother began calling her son Emmanuel instead of Deng. The Mohammedan father resisted this idea and tried hard to convert his son to his religion. He sent him to a religious school called Madrasa every day to memorize verses of surahs of the Holy Quran by heart. The Christian mother made it necessary for herself to take her son with her to church every Sunday. At church, Deng attended Sunday school and learned stories and verses from the Holy Bible. Deng in the Denka language means rain. Years passed and Emmanuel Deng switched allegiance between the Christian and Islamic religions. To him, the two faiths were like two parallel train lines that never meet. After great effort and fierce competition, the father won, and Emmanuel Deng became a Muslim son. Deng's parents did not settle in one place due to his father's military service. Every 2 or 3 years, the soldier was transferred to a different city in Sudan. His father is a first lieutenant general in the Sudanese army. His Asuba mother is an English language teacher at the only girls' senior secondary school in the city of Gadarif. Deng always does well in his studies. He likes to practice many types of sports, especially football and basketball. He is 6 feet 5 inches tall. His athletic body and length made him a good basketball player. When his parents moved from the capital city to Gadarif city, their son had grown into a teenager. He was 17 years old when he met his Arab girlfriend in Saf, who was 16 years at that time. He just started 12th grade. Insaf was in the 11th grade. Their friendship began by exchanging innocent smiles. Soon after, they started it, greeting and meeting each other until they found themselves truly in love. Deng took the relationship seriously and wanted it to push it further, but his Arab girlfriend in Saf tried to make him accept mere friendship. She explained to him very frankly that they could not marry each other. She was frank with him and explained why she refused to consider him as her future husband. She told him that she did not have the ability to choose her life partner. Her Arab father will make such an important decision in her life. This is because Islamic law gives the Muslim father the right to marry his virgin daughter to any man he wants. He knows that she knows that since Deng is a black African Negro, her parents will never accept him as a suitable husband for their Arab daughter. If she defies her father and tries to choose her life partner, the consequences will be there for her. Not only will she lose her love, but she will also put her life in danger. Her Muslim father will do everything in his power to prevent his pure Arab daughter from marrying an African Negro black boy. If all his efforts are unable to stop her, he may not hesitate to get rid of her either by marrying her to any male Arab relative, regardless of his age, or by slaying her in an oral killing. Deng discussed the difficult emotional problem he faces with his parents. His father and mother confirmed the fears of his Arab lover in Saf and advised him to stay away from her. Being a smart boy, Deng believed that all these racial barriers were just fake racist problems. If he could convince himself to marry him, he would not care what her Arab father or the society would say or do. So he continued trying to convince himself to change her mind. He wrote her many long letters. He knew that their meeting in the streets was fraught with danger for his Arab lover, and their conversation was short. His girlfriend himself read and enjoyed every love letter he sent her, but she never responded to them. Every love letter she had ever read himself tore up. She read his letters in the women's bathrooms at school, tore them, threw them in the toilet, and flushed them down. She would never risk bringing his letters to her house. Most of his gifts to her are chocolate sweets. She ate them before she got home. The only gift the Arab girl in South gave to her African lover Deng was her picture. She wasn't willing to give him her photo at first. However, Deng's consistent requests and repeated insistence made her take this dangerous step. She gave him her small photo taken of her expired school ID card. The risky love affair lasted an entire school year. Of course, a romantic relationship between a black southern boy and a white northern Arab girl is not a common occurrence in eastern Sudan. Many girls and boys noticed the affair and tried to separate the so-called unmarriageable lovers. Some friends from Insaf's girls' only school reported the matter to their principal. Some boys from Deng's all-boys school went so far as to assault him. However, the brave African boy was not intimidated by his schoolmates, and his Arab girlfriend did not succumb to the pressures of her school. Only when the news reached her parents did the beloved Insaf have to stop meeting her lover Deng. Unfortunately, the separation between them was complete and final, thus putting an end to their friendship. The boyfriend Deng left alone without knowing what happened to his girlfriend Insaf. He had no way to contact his lover. He didn't even know where she lived. He tried to find out where she lived before the separation, but Insaf was afraid of the bad consequences if she revealed her address to him. In this inhuman and racist way, their racial differences killed their innocent love. Their friendship has been stifled, just like that illegitimate infant who was killed before he could see the light of the day and whose body was dumped into that seasonal creek. After the two lovers were unjustly torn apart, Deng finished the 12th grade and was accepted into the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Khartoum. He left the city of Gadarif with a broken heart and joined the Faculty of Medicine in the capital city. His parents, his father, the Ferris Lieutenant General, and his mother, the English school teacher, submitted requests to move to the Sudanese capital, and they also moved to the city of Khartoum to accompany their beloved only son, Deng. In consequence, a short and sad chapter in love was folded in that city and soon forgotten by those who knew it. However, the innocent love affair with the African Negro lover Deng did not end there. Rather, it continued to haunt his Arab girlfriend in South wherever she went, as if she were a disgraced young woman by stigma of and abominable love or a forbidden love.